What is going on? Vintage gamers, another league here off stream. Something I like to do from time to time is take decks from other formats and try to port them into Vintage and see what happens. This one is JPA's classic Sneak Attack, Show and Tell, Sneak and Show deck from Legacy. One of the big things that is overwritten by Oath of Druids. Oath of Druids kind of takes the place of these cheat into play big creature cards in Vintage. But some of the upside of having a deck based around Show and Tell instead of Oath of Druids is that it's a base blue, so you have a really nice blue suite here to complement your Force of Wills. One of the upsides of Sneak Attack and instead of Oath of Druids is that you can win the game on the same turn, whereas not exactly the case with Oath of Druids. However, Oath of Druids obviously cheaper. Don't have to draw your fatty, so you don't have to play as many. You only play 2 fatties in Oath of Druids, but in a deck like Sneak Attack or Show and Tell, where you need to have the card in your hand, you have to play a large number of them. One thing this deck does lose is the ability to have 4 Brainstorm, which is key. Putting back extra Grizzlebrands and Emrakul's can be a big deal. And in this port, I've decided not to include some shuffle back spells or looting kind of effects. What I did was I took the exact list and then I substituted out the extra ponders and the extra ponders and the extra brainstorms for blue restricted cards, and then I substituted out the extra lotus petals for sapphire, ruby, lotus, and then I basically changed the colorless lands into Moxen as they fulfill a similar goal. And then I obviously switched the sideboard to be Vintage sideboard. Not too much changes actually, but I basically had some fluxes and some ley lines, as I think those are some of the better choices against Vintage level decks. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I don't play with 4 days decks a lot in Vintage, but I don't think it's a tool utilized enough. Days is a card that it can be bad, when the opponent has extra mana with Moxen, but it's also a free counterspell that is particularly good on the play. So I could actually see this card being maybe categorized as underplayed in Vintage. We'll have to see how it performs in this league today. There could definitely be some problems here. I'm mainly concerned because I've done this kind of port before. The loss of 4 Brainstorm feels really bad, and I'm not exactly making up for it by adding the blue restricted cards. Like, the blue restricted cards do help. However, I'm not. It doesn't make up for the fact that Brainstorm is really broken. Every time a Brainstorm gets cast in Vintage, I'm like, wow, why? How is this legal in Legacy? Because it reads like Ancestral Recall a lot of the time. Sometimes even better. So we'll try this out, see how it does. I am concerned a little bit about speed. Like, Show and Tell and Emrakul is not exactly the fastest. It's kind of similar to an Oath. However, Oath is a little bit easier to interact with than Emrakul. However, Show and Tell is a little easier to interact with than Oath. Show and Tell gets Pyroblasted and Flusterstormed, and that is not a great place to be. However, Sneak Attack doesn't get Pyroblasted or Flusterstormed, so like there is definitely some balancing act going on there. We'll see what happens today in this Vintage league. All right. It is finally round 1. Let's begin. I mean, this is exactly what I was talking about. Look how good Daze looks right here. Daze is looking... Jeez. What? Is this real life? Look how broken Daze is. Maybe we should be playing more of this Magic the Gathering card. Hell of a hand, huh? Would you like to let me show you a demon? A demon resolves. What do you got? A God Pharaoh statue? Oh. Oh my. Okay. Well, I will not be casting spells for the near future. But I have a Grizzlebrand, so most decks that play God Pharaoh statue can't beat a Grizzlebrand. I think. Okay, yeah. I'm under the impression that that is the case, but we'll have to see what happens. Ancestral. Wow. All right. I mean, that seems good. So I can still do some things. A land would be nice, and a force would be nice. Oh, we didn't hit a land. I guess we'll just draw some more cards. I can time walk if I hit a land, and that should be real good. Okay. So now, nothing here is positive mana, right? Well, technically the Black Lotus is. So I could go... I could get a Soul Ring, and then use the Soul Ring to play a Black Lotus, and then use the Black Lotus to play Time Walk. That way I have extra mana. For the next turn. Cool. So I actually have enough mana to sneak attack at Emrakul, right? I think I should. This costs 6, so I need 7. All right. Die. Great success. Okay, that was a good way to start the video. Big fan. Would turn 1, put a Grizzlebrand and play again. All right, my opponent is playing some kind of colorful shops deck. I would like access to the Magi. Magi? I don't know why I said Magi. Okay. The Energy Fluxes, the Abrades, those cards seem good. Cards that don't seem good. Mental Misstep. Cataxium Probe. Narset. Preordain? I think we just kind of hope we have it. I don't think we want to sculpt for it. This feels like a little better, right? Well, maybe Dazes on the draw are not great. Maybe we should just trim 2 Dazes on the draw. That's probably better. Okay. Now I have a bunch more hits too. I have all these fluxes and stuff. Yeah, this hand is not great. That's a nice amount of mana though. Just not fast enough. No protection. Don't like it very much. All right, well this one doesn't have anything to show and tell. Probably still keeping this one though, as at least it has a force. Sure. Grim Monolith, eh? Trinisphere. All right, well, I'm not going to allow that one to happen. Okay, second show and tell, not great. The good news is we do have 3 basic islands in our deck, which is sweet. Don't have any basic mountains. That's kind of annoying, but not the end of the world. I guess it's the end of the world if they have a lattice and 2 more mana, though. I am a little short on everything here. I kind of need a fatty. Feels pretty bad because the minute they find 2 mana, I assume they have a lattice in their sideboard. They might even search a lattice here. I'm not sure you can put lattice in play off show and tell though, so maybe not. They got a needle. Okay. For sneaky. All right, well, hitting more land drops is not great for us. We really need one of our payoffs. We do have a lot of payoffs at this point. We have 4 Grizzlebrand, 3 Emrakul, that's 7. 2 Magus, 2 Flux is 11. It's pretty good. Oh. Well, they ended up hitting too much mana here, so they can just get a lattice and win. Okay, you got a lattice, you win. Yeah, my hand did not come together there. And maybe that was a suspect keep. It's definitely possible. I'm going to put the dazes back in. Maybe the dazes are not even necessary because my opponent is on shops. I don't know. I'm on the play, so like just mulligan to a hand that does the thing, and we should be pretty much winning. Like we won game 1, and now we're on the play again, so I would think that we would get there. Okay. We battle. Oh no, this is just what I want, really. Like, only 11 hits, though. No. It's like, I would keep this hand on the draw, but on the play, I'm looking for a hand that does the thing. Okay, this hand does do the thing, so. So I guess we just go Mana Vault, Black Lotus, sneak attack in a Grizzlebrand. And that will still give us. So wait, if I use, maybe I have to use Jet, Mana Vault, Black Lotus, because that will give me an extra red mana in case I hit an Emrakul off of Grizzlebrand. That runs me into Mindbreak Trap. Because if I use Black Lotus to play Mana Vault, then I have 2 red mana and a Mana Vault left over, and I can then, I guess no matter what, I am going to run into Mindbreak Trap, so I might as well save my red mana. I guess this one, I get Misstep, but I can beat Misstep. I still have 5 extra mana after. I just can't beat I can't beat Mindbreak Trap no matter what, so I shouldn't bother playing around it. Because this is my 3rd spell no matter what I do. This is certainly the power of the upgraded vintage version of the deck. Having access to 3/7 mana on turn 1. I guess I can almost cast Grizzlebrand, can't I? 3. Wait, I'm 1 mana short of casting Grizzlebrand. If I had another Moxen instead of a sneak attack, I could theoretically not use the jet, use a different Moxen, and then actually cast Grizzlebrand. It's kind of nuts. Wow, that's crazy. Imagine you're just like, I will deploy the 8 mana and cast my Grizzlebrand, please and thank you. Not even an unachievable hand if my opponent pausing every 2 seconds makes me think they might have it, but again, I can't do anything about it. I have a sneak attack. Ooh, okay. I have a Grizzlebrand. I'm gonna draw some cards. Alright, cool. I have an Emrakul. You're dead. Thank you for playing Magic with me. It's a good one. I sure hope this round goes as well as round 1 did. Let's try. Yeah, I mean, I've got turn 1 Narset with Daze back up. Dude, Daze has been... Like, we actually haven't cast Daze because we put against shops. But it represented 1 mana Force of Will. Maybe it's because I mean, I am winning the die roll. That does help. That does help. I recommend winning the die roll if you are an aspiring Magic the Gathering player. I hear it can improve win rates. Crazy. Wild. Let's battle. Come on. Let's do it, opponent. I'm ready. I'm ready. My body is ready. I have very much fading mana here, but the good news is I have the Grizzlebrand, which means Narset can find me the Show and Tell or the Sneak Attack. The bad news is I can't really cast either of those when I get them because I'm going to have to use all of my manas. Again, I need to be on the lookout whenever I have these Black Lotus hands on whether or not I can cast Grizzlebrand. Here I am 0 black mana short, but 3 colorless mana short, which is interesting. All right, my opponent is mulliganing. We're here. 5 down to 6, down to 5. It is time. All right, my opponent's contemplating 5 now. Contemplating maybe going to 4. Let's see what they have for us. Somewhere. All right, we're battling. Ready? Ready, set. Make sure we play our island so that we can daze. Jam our Black Lotus. Oh, they don't have anything, apparently. Narset. Activate Narset. Found Force. Preordain. I think I'm more interested in Preordain than Force because I need to find land and... Is that crazy? I mean, I could just go Pedal Time Walk, right? I think I still want Preordain. I'm going to go Pedal Time Walk, but I'm going to go... I'm gonna grab this Preordain. I'm just trying to set up this Grizzlebrand. I don't think I need Force. Okay. All right, I found the Show and Tell. So now my Preordain can find me... Sure. All right, well, I have Show and Tell Grizzlebrand next turn, on turn 2-ish. I have Daze to protect me on this turn. Okay, so it is bizarre. I was kind of thinking it might be. I'll have to see what my opponent puts into play here. I still am covered. And this is basically Force of Will against Bizarre Baghdad. Oh, it's a Squee deck, but they had no spells on my turn. It's very odd, actually. All right, they can't beat a Grizzlebrand, so as long as I can get a Show and Tell to resolve. The good news is I had a Narset in play, so this Bizarre didn't draw them any cards. The bad news is they activated their Bizarre, discarded 3 cards, and played all value cards. So they get a Vengevine, a Hollow One, a Rootwalla, and they can kill this Narset if they'd like, and they also are recurring Squeeze. The good news is I'm resolving Show and Tell Grizzlebrand, and that's probably winning. So small victories. Put a Master of Death in play. Very cool. Okay, so if I draw off of this Grizzlebrand, I go to 13. I still can't die, right? I go to 13. I block at 20 down to... yeah, I'm going to draw. I like to hit a land drop. That's why. Cool. Okay, I feel real good about this. My opponent does get to return a Squee and activate a Bizarre, but I have a Grizzlebrand that they can't attack through. They won't be able to return unless they have like a main deck Caracas for some reason. Even if they had like a snapback, I have a Force. And if I draw like an Emrakul, I can win the game immediately with Sneak Attack. I actually can't win the game immediately with Sneak Attack because I have only 1 red source. Never mind. The cool thing is I can attack with Grizzlebrand and then Show and Tell another Grizzlebrand in play, which should help a lot as well. I'm just going to Daze this. It's kind of free. Okay, so I can also... let's go get a red source. I think I'm going to activate my Grizzlebrand and give me options to maybe Sneak Attack an Emrakul or something. It actually didn't hit an Emrakul, but I did hit my other red source. So I just need to find an Emrakul. Okay, cool. So now I can go Crack, Volcanic, Sneak Attack, Emrakul, kill you. This deck is fun. I'm having a good time. I am having quite a good time at the moment. I'm actually, oh, this is just beautiful value. Just having a great time. All right, let's try again. Keep going. Okay, so my opponent is on Squeevine, which is actually a harder deck for us to beat. However, the Dazes look very good against our opponent. We're going to bring in Ley Lines, which are quite good as well. Maguses should be reasonable. Needle should be reasonable. Cage, not very good. The defense grid should actually be very reasonable as well in this matchup. Turns off most of their stuff. However, I don't know how we're fitting 9 cards into our deck, so that is a problem. It's possible, like, Sneak Attack is not the way to go. It's possible, like, Force of Will is not the way to go. Like, I kind of think we might want to just not have forces. Dig might be too much. Misstep should be not very good. Mystical might be not very good. Maybe Narset on the draw, no good. I'm like a little sus, or a little, I don't really like the idea of like messing with the numbers too much. I don't know. I haven't watched or read anything from the Sneak and Show guy. I don't know if I'm allowed to like play with these numbers to a huge degree. I do like the idea of keeping dazes, as they seem like the best counter spell against my opponent. Like going force for force against my opponent is usually a losing proposition, but going daze for force seems reasonable to me. This hand seems sick. Keep. Leyline. Done. Go. They kept a 7-card Czar hand. I've got access to Ancestral with Counterspell backup and Show and Tell on turn 1, so feel real good about this. I mean, my hands have been extremely strong. In comparison to like the last thing I recorded, which maybe is the White Weenie video, where I just could not have a hand with powerful cards in it. Like this has been, I've been rolling high, is what I'm saying. All right, so my opponent has exiled some stuff and played a hollow one. Brought in Petrified Field, which doesn't really make much sense. We are not a Wasteland deck. A question is, should I play around negation? And answer is, I just don't think I give a shit. I think I want to jam with my days back up. I'd like to just show and tell on turn 1 if possible. It feels very, very possible to do so. Maybe I should play around Mindbreak Trap, though. Okay. Interesting. So I'm gonna Needle Bazaar. I think that's fine. They're on the back of a hollow one. I do have Sneak Attack and Daze back up again next turn. Won't have a red mana to activate Sneak Attack. I do need to hit a creature in my draws, but once I do that, should be great. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would rather just show and tell this into play, and then we're winning. Don't need to activate anything else. Yeah, all right. I think we actually are going to beat the full counterspell deck with our combo deck. Okay. Okay. We continue. Okay. These hands have more Moxen than my PO draws. I think I'm just really jealous, okay? It's a league video, it's off stream, it's a random ass deck, and I have these beautiful hands. I guess why can't I always have such nice hands? Why can't you be like this all the time? It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Give me Show and Tell Emrakul. All right, I'll probably Show and Tell Grizzlebrand. There's one reason we have 4 Grizzlebrands. Oh, mental misstep. All right, well, I don't think I'm allowed to cast this Preordain. I think have to keep open force here. Unfortunately, our opponent has said no to us finding the cards we need, which is not good. As we have mana, but we don't have action, and I'm a bit on the worried side of things here. I was feeling good, and then that misstep actually just ruined all of my plans. I was going to use the misstep to get our combo together, but now I'm behind. Now I am behind. Oh, you're allowed to preordain, but I'm not allowed to preordain. See how it is. All right, so be it. Dig through time. Okay, well, I'm gonna preordain now. What do you got for us? Sneak attack, force of will. All right, I think we are priced into taking sneak attack. And then we have to find a fatty, and then we have to resolve a sneak attack, and then we have to activate sneak attack. So there's a lot of things that have to happen, and my opponent has 6 cards in hand and is a Tundra deck. So I'm not thrilled with the prospect of resolving and completing the spells. Let's see what kind of deck they are. Stoneforges, Sandstills, Merchant Scrolls. Okay. Are they going to get Force or are they going to get Ancestral? They got Force. Well, I think I want to draw either Daze or a Fatty here. I'm going to jam this because I don't think it gets better waiting. My opponent looked for a Force, which means they probably only have 1 Force. They have a Daze? Okay. All right. Well, I wasn't really expecting that. So I could have played around that. I didn't really think my opponent's Thunder deck would have a Daze. So that's my fault, I guess. I was just speaking about how good Daze is. We just countered my 4-drop. Who has Daze? It must be Stoneblade, right? All right. Well, I don't know what I'm doing now because I have a Force, but they have a Force. I have a Dig, but I don't have a lot of cards. It was kind of another reason I didn't include Dig and Cruise. I didn't think we'd be able to fuel it very well. We can definitely fuel one. Maybe we're just playing against like Standstill or something. I think it makes sense to actually. I'm gonna be in Flusterstorm range, so I probably should have played the pedal so I could maybe have Doug. Emrakul. I don't know. This looks hopeless. Looks like they're gonna dig first. I'm gonna just hardcast Force. If they want to force back, they can force back. If not, I mean, we're so far behind. Maybe I can bait. Oh, okay. Force pitching. Okay, so it's just Jeskai control with a Daze in it. Man. I had Emrakul sneak attack. I just fucked up and didn't play around Daze. Feel really dumb. But I live and learn, I guess. I just didn't expect it. It's kind of not a huge reason not to play around it, though. It also represents like Flusterstorm Pyroblast, so there really wasn't a reason for me to not play my Lotus Petal besides concealing like the fact that I maybe can activate it at the same turn. My opponent went top on their preordain, which is scary. So if I draw, I was gonna say, if I draw Show and Tell, and then I can like bait with Dig Through Time and slam Show and Tell. Let's start with preordain, I guess. All right, hit Show and Tell, and I hit Narset. So I'm actually going to keep both and use Narset as the bait. Can't cast Show and Tell this turn because that runs me into Fluster pretty badly. Oh, they have Pyro. Jesus. All right, I forgot they were Jeskai. Okay. So I can't really dig. I can't really beat Luster super well. Okay. We're gonna put dig back on top. Okay. They only have 2 cards in hand. Should I just bait the Fluster right now then? They don't have Pyro up. They have Negation up. All right, I'm gonna just cast this dig, and if they have 2, yeah, I can beat 2 Flusters as well. Okay, this is fine. This is totally fine. Oh, it just resolves? Okay, I think I just take 2 Show and Tells then. 2 Show and Tells. Well, I think my opponent has nothing, so I'm just gonna take a Ponder and a Show and Tell. If my opponent ends up with a, like, they could have negated. Yeah, this is what I wanted. I wanted to be able to find Grizzlebrand. I swear to God, if I ended up getting negated after this, that would have been pretty sad. All right, so now I have a Grizzlebrand. Obviously, this runs into swords, but I think it's just so much better than Emrakul. Okay, I can, oh, my opponent has Dreadhorde swords, though. Okay, so I can Mystical for Mental Misstep. Wait, what about... Have I played my land yet? No. So I could Mystical for Time Walk. Okay, Mystical for Time Walk, and then I should be good. Thinking about this more, because the best time to think about things is, of course, after I've done them. Maybe I was supposed to put Emrakul in play. Didn't really think about how bad it was for me to for them to have swords plus Dreadhorde swords. I feel like we snuck that game. I don't feel like I would deserve to win that game, but man, so we have to play against Pyroblast, Flusterstorm, the deck. Gonna bring in Pyroblasts. And I think Defense Grids maybe. And then I'm gonna take out some Dazes on the draw. I might want to bring in a Braid just so I can kill a Dreadhorde. Kind of seems annoying. I'm gonna take out Mystical, even though it was good there. Because I typically don't like to play Mystical against these kind of decks. This is kind of interesting, as it... yeah, I mean, I think this is probably a keep. I do miss out on fast mana to get us to sneak attack, but... All right, this is a little bit of a suspect hand, but I am on the draw. I have a lot of fast mana to draw to. Have some interaction. I kind of think it's reasonable. Hey, they have more fast mana than me. That's cheating. Turn 1 Dread Horde. Turn 1 Sprite Dragon. That is not something I've seen in a long time. Okay, that's not bad. I'm definitely go down to like draw mana, jam a payoff spell every turn of the game. That would be ideal for sure. Huh, interesting. I do think this might clock me though, especially if I miss on any land drops. Oh. Okay, now I have to hit exactly all land drops. I didn't really think about this card. It's not the most annoying against us, but... Okay. I don't think my opponent has Wastelands because they're a Lavinia Sprite Dragon deck, but let's just play Fetch Land to be safe. You can still hard cast this Mental Misstep, but I won't be able to protect my Show and Tell from Pyro, unfortunately. It's really sad that that's the case, but I think it's okay. On the play, I might bring those Dazes back for I think that will help a lot. I didn't think my opponent would be this aggressive. Kind of interesting. You don't really see Sprite Dragon outside of like Luris decks too much. I'm definitely worried. But they don't have any. They haven't cast any draw spells, and they only have 3 cards in hand. And we drew one of the lands that we needed. This is a very clutch draw, as it's going to let us start casting things. Like I said, if I can draw land for the next 2 turns, I will gladly accept because there are so many dead draws in our deck. There are Forces, Moxen, just so many dead draws. Feel like we'll have to be pretty lucky to get our way out of this, but it's definitely possible. And it's definitely possible that I'm going to be putting Emrakul into play so I don't get swords, because I won't be able to draw into Forces if I get swords. That's why I sequenced that last turn with Ponder before Grizzlebrand activation, so that I could Grizzlebrand into counter magic. Okay, so my opponent now has Teferi, so I can't actually use Emrakul. Wow. Okay. This apparently is just a disgustingly bad matchup. And I can't Mental Misstep this because they played a Teferi. Jesus. Okay. Because this is spells, so you can bounce Emrakul if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wait, they just bounced the Moxen for no reason. I guess to hold up Pyroblast and get +1 damage. Okay. Well, now we have outs. Like, our opponent just has nothing. Would be an out. Our opponent is just getting aggro. But they did draw a million cards now, so I assume we're just stone cold dead. All right, well, another sneak attack is not what we were looking for. I don't really have other options, so I'm just going to jam Show and Tell and hope they have nothing. Do you have nothing? They don't have nothing. Very very rude of them. All right, I actually have no outs now because I can't actually. Well, I can draw another Show and Tell, I guess. That's my out. Yeah, that was not ideal. Oh, I have a Pyroblast in my deck to kill Lavinia. That's cool. Okay, that did not go super well. My opponent's draw was a lot better against us than I thought it would be. Let's bring these Dazes back in. Let's take these defense grids back out. And then let's take out like Petal and maybe Mana Vault. Some of like the more less good stuff. I feel like this is worth keeping. Obviously, there are some downsides to this hand. This is the part where you really wish you had 4 Brainstorms in your deck, right? You have these Griselbrands, you don't need more than one of them, but you don't have any way to get value from them. Maybe the answer is Ledger Shredder. Just pitch some Griselbrands. All right, my opponent mulled a 6. What do you got? What do you got? 6-card hand. Survey says. Does the survey say? Will the survey be said? I don't know. Let's see what happens. But yeah, like we kind of mulligan to 6 as well, but can't really. I don't think this is a mulligan, so. Especially not if we can find some fast mana off this preordain. Imagine we just find Black Lotus, and then we just slam Show and Tell with Pyroblast backup. That'd be so good. Why are we tanking on Mycotaxian Probe? Oh, that's a bold play. Can't say I recommend that, but it is annoying for me. Do I want a second Show and Tell? Man, I really can't afford to keep a second Show and Tell. I need to hit land drops. It's kind of unfortunate. I want a second Show and Tell, but I just don't think I can afford it. If I'm not hitting my land drops, then I'm just going to not be able to cast it, so. Okay. So if my opponent doesn't play something here that I care about, my best draws a Mox. Okay. And now I just have to hope they don't have anything good. I don't think waiting helps me, so I'm just going to jam. I only beat Force. I don't beat Fluster, and I don't beat Pyro, but maybe I should wait one more turn for another mana and try to beat Fluster, but that doesn't seem very good either. Don't know. Doesn't make me feel like I gain very much by waiting, though. Like, am I gaining a huge amount by waiting? I'm still not beating Pyroblast. I'm giving them an extra card. I still need to draw another land. Like, it just doesn't feel like that is a positive. Just play my Show and Tell and hope it works. Wow, really? Just slam? No, nothing? Nothing? Wow. Based. This deck, it has the good vibes. Well, Magic Online caught me winning games of Magic and sent the big guns. We got Bard across the table. One of the highest win rate players in Vintage. See what we can do here. Well, I mean, the hands are not slowing down. Well, I mean, it actually is slowing down in the fact that I'm not winning very quickly. But it is not slowing down in the fact that I have some power. I'm going to jam Ancestral. I know you could maybe suggest I play any of my other 1-drops. But that is not the business I'm about. Okay. I thoroughly enjoy everything that's happening. I'm down for you to ponder. Does this mean you are playing a Doomsday? Or does it mean you are playing a Tinker? Or does it mean you are playing Tinker and Breach? I don't know. All I know is I have many cards to gather with next turn. Very interesting hand. I am hopefully going to see my combo pieces off of my brainstorm, and then casting them with double daze backup would be silly, right? Okay. I'm gonna play my Sapphire. I don't think the opponent's deck plays Daze either, but I'm too dramatized at this point. Okay, I found the Grizzlebrand. I'm gonna put the Emrakul back. Don't think I need both. And I'm gonna put back one fetch land. I'm gonna fetch a non-basic and cast Ponder. All right, so now I have everything. I think I'm still interested. No, I think I'm not interested in casting Show and Tell this turn because of Flusterstorm. I think I'm mostly interested in casting. Am I even interested in casting Sneak Attack this turn? No, I don't think so. I think I'm just going to play out my mana. If I had... Yeah, I think I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to wait till next turn, and then I will just jam. What I might do is I might jam Show and Tell first. Yeah, this is fine. Shouldn't live long enough where that matters. No, I'm just going to jam Sneak Attack. No, I should jam Show and Tell. Pyroblast. Can't jam both, and well, I can jam both if I daze, so should probably start with just jamming Show and Tell. That what plays around Fluster the best. All right, has Pyroblast, so I'm just going to ease your Pyroblast. So I could... I could put the Sneak Attack in, and then put the Grizzlebrand in, and then activate the Grizzlebrand. It's probably better. Try to find another one. Try to find an Emrakul here. Maybe I should have played this Volcanic back out, and then that way I can have access to Dig Through Time. I assume this helps me find Emrakul. Ooh, I have 14 draws. I had 7, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is lethal. Interesting. All right, another victory. Tinker Breach is what I'm going to assume my opponent is playing. Do we want Magus for Saga? Kind of don't want Magus because my opponent is a Lightning Bolt deck. I don't think I want Leyline either. Leyline is fine against Breach, but I'm not really sure that's what I want to be doing. I think I want access to Pyroblast instead of like Mystical Tutor and a Daze. I probably want access to Defense Grid. I kind of like boarding this in on the draw. It makes sense to me. I just don't think I want to go all in against the Tinker Breach deck with the Leyline. Doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm supposed to bring in Cage, because Cage stops Tinker and Breach. All right. Oh boy, I like this hand, but it is certainly missing a creature and a land, and I think that is too much. Okay, this hand looks nice. I have access to a counter spell, and I also have access to grid, and I'm also going to get Saga'd. Brutal. Shit. Okay. I said I didn't need Magus to beat Saga, but my hand currently doesn't do anything, which is problematic. Is this just Ancestral? Jeez, okay. Hell of a draw. All right, I just need to find... Yeah, about to say, like, I need to find pieces here, and I am not finding pieces, so I assume I'm just going to die to Saga here because my deck doesn't do anything. Like, a Saga killing you because you didn't do anything is not unreasonable to me. I think we're going to die to this Saga. Needle on sneak attack. Sure. Okay, I should have brought in a braid. That was a card I could have easily, or on Grizzlebrand. I should have definitely brought in a braid. There was no reason for me not to bring in a braid. That was a huge mistake. Absolutely zero reason for me not to bring in a braid. I don't know. Defense grid doesn't look very good here. Kind of doesn't play well against Saga play patterns. I'm moving back into Daze's post board anyways, but I should definitely be bringing in a braid because of everything that's happening here. All right, I'm just going to hope I draw Sneak Attack or Show and Tell, and this Emrakul is good enough. I didn't, so I lose. I think it's like totally reasonable for me to die on turn 3 because I didn't interact, or on turn 4 because I didn't interact with my opponent. That doesn't seem like a problem to me. I do want to braid. I'm actually kind of sus on these Pyros. Don't know what they actually do for me, besides counter maybe Tinker. I don't know. It doesn't really feel like Pyros and Maguses are the way you want to play against Tinker Breach. Doesn't. I mean, my opponent might not even be on Breach, I guess. But I saw blue. I saw red, right? I think I saw red. Oh, whatever. I'm just gonna go back into combo with the addition of a braid instead of whatever. Mystical. Yeah, this looks good. I mean, it doesn't look great because I don't have. If I had another creature, it would look great. I think I am just supposed to jam this into possible negation because I want to win the game on this turn if I can. Okay. I think I'm just going to pass. I have a good setup. I just need creatures now. Don't have any good ways to find them besides, you know, the Ancestral I actually got to resolve. Volcanic. So I'm just going to... Man, what am I going to do? I think I'm just going to time walk. I think it makes sense to try to find this answer while I have all of the stuff. Didn't find anything. So I'm going to cast Sneak Attack here without using my impermanent mana sources. That just resolves. All right. Opponent has me read like a book. That's why DM is the ban. The good news is I have a force and extra mana to counter a spell that would kill me. But if my opponent just tinkers with force backup, I will lose. Not much I can do about it. I cast Ancestral and it resolved, and I didn't find I cast Ancestral, it resolved, I didn't find a creature, and that is the way of the world. Not much I can do there. Like, it's not even like the Ancestral didn't resolve. I would 100% lose this game if my Ancestral didn't resolve, so. Hit a Daze off the top of my library, which is good for me. Ragavan once again clearing my deck for me. All right. Draw spells, creatures. Ataxium probes. Sure. Show me your secrets. Oh, don't show me your secrets. I just, oops. I need to go. I need to go. I'm gonna cast this. My opponent can get a needle off of this saga, so I don't have a lot of time. All right, my opponent has Fluster Ragavan. I can't really use my Black Lotus to cast this Preordain and then still be able to sneak attack, so. All right, well, my opponent now has access to both Ragavan and Saga. Hopefully they don't hit a creature here. They hit another Daze, perfect. All right, this is my turn. I have a Preordain. Why? 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 I'm so sad. They drew Pyro? I'm gonna lose this game. Wow, I feel like I had such an advantage, and if at any point I draw a creature, I just win. But I guess that's how it goes. That is very disappointing. So they get into Needle, they Needle Sneak Attack. I still can show and tell, but I'm running out of time, and my opponent's gonna have 6/6s. So I think I'm just gonna lose, unfortunately. They drew Force off of Narset? My god, it's so good. So my opponent drew all the right cards, and I drew all the wrong cards. But that is just magic. It happens. I just drew none of the cards I needed to win. Unfortunate, really. Could never hit the cards I needed there. That's very sad. Very, very sad. Damn. Unfortunately, even with a sneak attack resolved, we could not vanquish Bart. But one more battle. Let's try to 4-1 this league. Not a bad hand. I don't think I'm going to wait on the Ponder. I'm just going to jam it. Take 2 cards, I guess, if one of them is good. We're looking for very specific cards anyways. Okay, that's perfect. Let's grab a Force for now, and then we'll grab a Grizzlebrand after. I probably should play the stupid Moxen now. Don't know why I didn't. Oh, actually, It is worth noting that I don't have enough mana to activate sneak attack right away. Uh-oh. Oh, that's fine. Wait, there was a show and tell, wasn't? Oh no, I needed a Grizzlebrand. So I couldn't keep the force if I wanted the show and tell? No, I feel like getting the force was much better. Especially now. Prophetic. Oh, so it's the white weenie deck. Not the white weenie deck, sorry, the Bronze Guardian shops deck. Colorful aggro shops. Alright, my opponent has a big patchwork automaton. I guess it could be problematic if that thing gets bigger than Grizzlebrand, huh? My opponent is still casting spells. Hell of a turn one. 6/6 Patchwork Automaton. Didn't counter it because I don't think it's worth countering, but... So now the question is, should I wait on the show and tell? Or should I just put the sneak attack in play? I actually think I need to wait on the show and tell because... Actually, my opponent... Yeah, I'm going to wait on the show and tell because I need to play around Wasteland and I need to play... Yeah, I'm gonna... Oh man, this is going to hit me... So the Patchwork will end up being bigger than the Grizzlebrand, but the race still looks good. I have a counter for their best follow-up. There is a show and tell underneath this Ponder, right? I just can't remember. Oh, actually, this is a free Daze. Oh, it's a blue spell, so at the very least, that's good. Okay, so this Patchwork gets in for 7. Oh, they drew Strip Mine. Well, now I really hope it's show and tell. Strip Mine was not something I was allowed to play around, so... Alright, it is show and tell. I'm just going to fetch an island. And I'm going to cast show and tell. And I'm going to put a Grizzlebrand in play. And then I'm going to take 7. They had a Wasteland as well. Okay. I'm not going to draw unless I really need to counter their top deck. Oh, no, because then I have to trade with the Patchwork Automaton. Okay, that could be problematic. They should attack for sure. Okay, they did attack. This could be tough. Let's take a quick think. I go back to 12, and then I go... Maybe I needed to fetch... Trying to figure out if I'm losing, if I'm racing here. I might need to activate next turn. Because this puts me to 5, and then they get a creature, and they're only going to 2. So I am technically losing this race, so I will need to activate on our next turn and do something. I also lose to a Nettlesis off the top. Because I have to activate my Grizzlebrand to force. I lose to a lot of things here. This Patchwork ended up being just super big with the double Prism draw. There's the plains. Okay, so I will need to draw into something here. Probably need to hit Time Walk. It's unfortunate I didn't have enough damage. Because I can't exactly sneak attack. Depending. Because if they make this is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14. All right. I have to find Time Walk. Any Time Walkers? Show and tell on Emrakul. Is that good enough? It's not good enough, right? I show and tell an Emrakul, then I can block this, but then I will die to constructs. Okay. So I think I'm just trying to find Time Walk now. What if I show and tell a Grizzlebrand? I go to 2. I show and tell a Grizzlebrand. They make 2 constructs. I might be able to trade with the automaton. I think it's still worth it to brainstorm first for a Time Walk. Nothing, no dice. I actually need to play out a Mana Crypt as well. This is probably going to get me killed. But this at least lets me maybe live. Maybe. I feel like there might have been suboptimal optimizations here at some point. I don't know what they were, but it does feel that way. If they draw a land and not a creature, at the very least, my Grizzlebrand trades. If they draw an artifact, though, I die because this construct will be too big. Because I cast Probe and I cracked a fetch. If I had chosen not to probe and just brainstormed, it might have been better. Yeah, so I need them to draw a land, and then I need to not lose my flip. Those two things both have to happen, and then I also need to do something on the next turn. Okay, it looks like they drew a spell, which means I die. Try forcing it, I guess. Let's see what happens. Oh no, I still die. I die exactly. Okay, so unfortunate. This game actually might have been a win if I had forced the patchwork, which is interesting, but it's not a play that I would typically make. We're going to bring in Magus, Abrade, and Energy Fluxes, and then we're going to board out Mental Misstep, Narset, Probe, Daze. Well, Daze on the play is fine, I guess. I still don't like Mystical in this matchup. And Dig, maybe. Maybe those just the expensive stuff. That's a lot of mana. Let's try again. Okay, yep. That's a little bit too many dazes, but... Ancestral, any show and tell Emrakuls, maybe? Cool. Don't think there's anything worth... Oh, I have days anyways, so... About to say, I could... Can't really play around Mind Rig Trap, but I have days. I have Mind Rig Trap. Got him. Sure, let's ponder. Don't think I want the other Grizzlebrand, so I might just wait unless I need a force. I have a daze. I shouldn't really even need a force. Damn. Some solid hands here. These patchy boys. Kind of getting the job done. Alright. I think I'm going to draw. Because I don't really want... Shit. This Magus isn't even going to be good. I'm a bit worried here. You have a follow-up? Oh my god. It's gonna stop my emerald? Okay, yeah. Whew. I might lose, right? Feel like I might lose. Oh, they actually gonna hit Grizzlebrand. It's probably fine for me. Play this. Play this. Oh, I did not want to play a fetch land. Ugh. That was a misclick. I mean, maybe just 7/7 flying lifelink is gonna be way more than enough. I definitely didn't draw anything that mattered, put it that way. Free mana, draw a card, get a 1/1 counter. Craftdigger's Cage doesn't stop anything, right? Graveyards or libraries. So it doesn't stop show and tell or sneak attack. Okay, so my opponent just can't race a Grizzlebrand, so it doesn't matter too much here. Kind of crazy. Felt like not great, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's a large flying demon. What's the worst that could happen? Okay. We squeezed one out versus the Patchy Boy. That is a weird one. I forget I said that. Edit it out. Quick. Quick. Edit it out. I don't really like the idea of days versus them on the draw, so I'm going to probably just put back some of these not as powerful Magic the Gathering cards. I guess I can bring in Needle for Wasteland or something. All right. The final match. The final game. Whatever will we do? Yeah, that is what we will do. Keep. Thinking slam turn 1 energy flux, pay for 1 mox with the moxes. That doesn't really do anything, but is it better than using the mana vault to pay for the energy flux and then losing both and then keeps an emerald for later? Or is it better to keep a mana vault for later? Mana vault technically is plus 2 mana. This is technically plus 1 mana. All right, I have to force this. Do I still play my Flux? Or do I wait and get value? I think it's better to hold the Emerald than the Mana Vault. Well, at the very least, I should play all these Moxen out, right? Or at least I should play the Jet out. I mean, at least I should play the Vault out. Don't really want to run into Mind Break Trap. Maybe I'll wait one turn here. I guess they could, like, Revoker my Mana Vault, but... kind of feels like I want to wait, and so they don't know. Flux is good. Ancient Tomb helps against Flux. Okay. Non-land card. So I lose my Mana Vault. If they follow this up with a Sphere, I get wrecked, I guess. Wow. Okay. Have to draw a lot of stuff. Land. Man, I maybe made a huge mistake in not jamming Energy Flux. I didn't. This is a hell of a draw, though. Workshop Tomb, Ruby Sphere, Trinisphere. Feels bad, man. Feels real bad, man. Feel really stupid, but Chalice on 1. Sure. All right, I'm still just looking for a land drop. Immediately hit a 1 drop. Okay, fair. Am I gonna lose after having the ability to play turn 1 Energy Flux? Kind of looks like it. All right, still just looking for a land to play. I hate this game so much. I hate this game so much. I hate this game so much. Okay, I mean, I should have just jammed Energy Flux on turn 1, I guess. It didn't feel right, but doubles, you know, third and fourth, or second and third taxing effects. Even if I jam it, they're going to be able to pay for this. So I'm probably going to be in trouble either way if I hit a land. Okay. Well, the good news is we can finally jam our Energy Flux. The bad news is we have 10 life. All right, see if opponent wants to play through it. They have Ancient Tombs. It is annoying to play through, to be fair. Let's see. Well, they paid for Chalice. That's interesting. And they didn't pay for Sphere. And they're going to pay for mana. They'll pay for Revoker, and they won't pay for Ruby. Okay. I mean, we got rid of a lot. We got rid of a lot. What'd you top deck? Oh, 5 mana. That can't be good. Maybe it's 5 mana. What is that? That's a good top deck. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, so guess we'll just pay to keep something around. Not my Mana Vault. Okay. Well, that's a good draw. Oh, it's not a good draw. I have a chalice. Did I sack enough things? I did sack enough things. Oh, I didn't sack enough things. All right. I should have not paid anything to keep anything around. I should have floated mana and cast Dig Through Time. I'm going to lose because I'm bad at Magic, so at least that's a constant. Yeah, this game was probably just won if I had cast Energy Flux on turn 1, but I got greedy. And I lost the game because of it. So, hey, live and learn a little bit here. They're paying for the chalice? Interesting. I guess my opponent just had a soul read. I would draw all 1-drops. I don't really have that many 1-drops in my deck. All right, I have no answers. I'm pretty much just stone cold dead. I don't think I have a single answer in my deck that's going to be able to beat this. I needed to play Energy Flux immediately, and I didn't. And then I didn't Dig Through Time, which probably maybe could have saved me. Hard to say. It's possible that Dig Through Time would have saved me if I had correctly played my last turn. Let's see. I would have lost all of my things, and I would have taken Show and Tell Grizzlebrand, and then I would have had to come up with 2 mana sources. Yeah, I mean, it probably would not have been very good, but I definitely played this game badly, and I lost because of it. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. At least we didn't lose the 5-0 because of it. That would have been brutal. Anything to say? 4 days was pretty sick. I am still just worried that, like, it's hard to find the creatures. It's hard to utilize. Like, it's just kind of, you have to have it. And if you have it, you have it. And you are playing a lot of the things to have it, right? You're playing 8 and 7. But losing 4 Brainstorm is just so much. So much lost Brainstorm. Cool deck, though. It was fun. I had a great time. Got some good screenshots. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't really know exactly how you can make this deck better. Like, it might just be like these dazes need to turn into real spells. Maybe you play some cards that can pitch cards. I don't know. Not Treasure Cruise. Thirst for Knowledge. Maybe you play like Ledger Shredders there. Maybe you play counter magic of a different variety. Like you play some Flusters and something. Could always like fit a Merchant Scroll into this deck. Could fit a Gush into this deck, perhaps. I did get rid of the Ancient Tomb, so maybe you can play like Gush, Merchant Scroll, Fluster. Yeah, Gush, Merchant Scroll, Fluster. Maybe keep 8 days. Maybe you bring a Treasure Cruise back in. Kind of hard. Like this half of the deck doesn't really lend to the Xerox stuff, and that's a lot of cards. Like 15 is a large enough amount that I am very skeptical of its power. But it was sweet when it worked, and then when I drew like the right Moxton setup and the right counter setup, and I played well, it all kind of worked out. So I do think like the Shops matchup should be better, but I flubbed it pretty badly in that last one. So I don't think the Shops matchup is a big deal. Just show and tell as soon as possible, and feels like very winning. Sneak Attack is a little bit too much mana against Shops, so that's kind of annoying, but maybe you're supposed to like board out some number. But we were able to like Sneak Attack Shops pretty effectively earlier in the tournament, so either way, thanks for watching. Hope you made it to the end of the video. If you did, you're awesome. Are you like commenting and subscribing? Are you boosting the algorithm? Are you coming back Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern for more vintage content? Well, you should be.